Joining me now, not a first-time guest, although the first-time guest in this capacity. I could talk about how he is the Knicks beat writer for The Athletic. I could talk about his many other accolades covering the NBA. But I'm just going to say he is the reason that Leon Rose came out and spoke to the media, because finally the evil Mike Vorkunov got taken off the beat. And Leon Rose said, now finally I could talk. I could talk because Vork is no longer here. I want to talk to Fred Katz. So Fred, hello.
Well, I'm sure that's how you feel too. You're like, I can finally start voicing my opinions on this podcast. Vork is gone.
The tyranny.
Nowhere to be seen. It's over.
It's over. Happy days ahead. No, obviously Vork, as we've all talked about in the past, he's amazing and he graced his presence or graced us with his presence many times. And now he is off to do some covering of NBA business. So we have you covering the Knicks for The Athletic. And I have to say, so far, so great. I've been loving reading every day. Or almost every day. Again, there's not. Well, let's start there. There hasn't been a whole lot to write about, right? I mean, it's been pretty, I don't know, smooth sailing, hunky dory in Knicks land so far.
Yeah, the Nets have the market cornered in this city on perfect storms. Apparently,
it would seem so.
Yeah, it's so funny. We were just talking about that in the media room today about how the Knicks are just the stable one right now. Which a few years ago,
what world is this?
Who saw that one coming? Yeah, I mean, Nerlens Noel has been dealing with a knee injury, but it sounds like he's going to be fine and could play on Wednesday. And Mitchell Robinson has the injury also. And yeah, I mean, feels like the biggest news out of the Knicks is that they're playing well. They're taking a lot of threes. And that's kind of it. It doesn't make for unbelievable radio unless you are somebody who is obsessed with 3-point rate, which I kind of am. So I'm pretty excited about this job.
Well, listen, I too am excited about the Knicks 3-point rate, especially since the Knicks. If you go and look at the different streaks they have about how long has it been since they have been out of the bottom 10 and this stat or that stat, there's a few. 3-point rate is up there. I think 13-14. I'm pretty sure that year they were not in the bottom 10, and then since they've been pretty terrible. And that's your most recent piece that you wrote about how they've been jacking up threes. I'll just ask, and I think it's a completely an opinion question, because what do we really have to go on other than 2 fake games and some Derrick Rose comments? Do you think this is real? Do you think this is here to stay?
I think they will take more threes than they did last year.
Let's just start.
They were 24th in 3-point attempt rate last year. That's just the percentage of shots they took that came from beyond the 3-point line. And I think that's going to go up. I think they have a concerted effort to make more, or to take more, I should say. But I think more importantly, the personnel is different. I mean, Kemba jacks up threes. Fournier is going to be good for 6.5 threes a game. And then you even look at the evolution of the personnel they have.
Yeah.
RJ Barrett is not going to take 4 3-point attempts a game this year. I really don't believe that. I think he's going to be at 6 attempts a game, maybe more. He looks so much more comfortable putting it up on the catch now, especially from the wings. I mean, what's really interesting is that he's evolved as a 3-point shooter in kind of a normal way that a non 3-point shooting guard would. He's just done it extremely quickly. There was a point where he wasn't comfortable shooting threes at all, right? And then it was like, hey, RJ looks pretty good catching and shooting from the corner. That's pretty real. He looks a lot better there. And then it's okay. He's taking some from the wings now, and he's putting them in, but he's not doing it at a ridiculously high volume. And then it's okay. He's taking 4 a game and making them. And now it's like, I don't know. I think the RJ Barrett stuff in the preseason is real. I know he made a concerted effort to change his shooting form, a couple of years ago. And it seems like that's made just a massive difference. And I think the RJ Barrett improvement is going to be a real thing. And I think his comfort level around the 3-point line seems like a real thing. So I think they'll take more. But hey, Tom Thibodeau, you mentioned the Knicks history. Tom Thibodeau has never coached the team in his 9 full seasons as a head coach that's been in the top half of the league in 3-point rate. So that would be a new one for Tibbs too.
Which is amazing. It's funny. I was reading your piece today, and it gave me some fodder to think about something to write for tomorrow or for Wednesday when people are hearing this, because you mentioned the Knicks are also playing a little quicker, which is something else that Tom Thibodeau teams, despite having for almost 2 full years, like in his prime, Derrick Rose. I know Rose was hurt a little bit during that Tibbs' second full season in Chicago. But like they've always played slow. It kind of changed that last season in Minnesota, and they're playing quicker now too. I'm curious to see how that goes as well. Let's stick with RJ for a second, because can I say something about the pace real quick?
Please, yeah. So just adding on to that, their biggest problem last year was not actually, when people talk about pace, they just look at like possessions per game and they see who ranks at the top of the league in pace, and that's it. And I hate that stat, pace. I think it's a BS stat.
Okay,
it has absolutely no correlation to winning.
I completely agree with. Yes.
It has none. People talk about every year, we want to play faster. And then you look at the pace leaders, and that's not what playing fast should be. It's not how we should judge playing fast. I think the Knicks can play faster and finish with the exact same pace. In part because, number one, they want to string along possessions on the other side of the floor and force late shot clock possessions on defense, which hurts your pace. And in part two, because I don't think the Knicks need to fast break more. Like, they don't have a fast breaking team. They don't have a lot of guys who are excellent running. It's not like because you bring in Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier, all of a sudden you're running up and down the floor. Right. What they need to do is their strength is that they have ball handlers now, which means they'll be able to get into like second side actions and that kind of stuff as long as they have the time for it. So what they need to do is make sure they can get into their first actions and get into their sets with like 19 on the shot clock instead of 14 on the shot clock. So if something doesn't work, they swing to Fournier on the weak side and he can do something, or Barrett on the weak side and he can do something. There's time to run another pick and roll, all of that. And that, I think that will make a huge difference in their offense. And that is the type of speed that they've been playing. They've been bringing it up the floor and they've been able to get into their sets quickly. And I think that has been, that will be a really important thing for them this year.
It's a fantastic point. And it's something I'm going to spend some time thinking about, because like I just, watching the game again, it's a preseason game against, no offense to the team you used to cover. Not a particularly great team. But
their 3-point defense in that game. I went back for that 3-point piece that I wrote, and there were some possessions where like the Knicks just brought it up and just swung to a dude. And there was just like, they just weren't guarding him for absolutely no reason.
But so that's the thing though, is and this may just be my perception, because like you watch a team night after night after night after night, you like, it all starts to blend together. Last season felt like a Knicks team that just as a matter of course, if there was 14 seconds left, or maybe not, if there was like 16, 17 seconds left on the shot clock, they just weren't putting it up. Like they were going to pass the ball more. And the other night, you saw like Fournier, RJ, whoever it was, it's like if they had room, it didn't fucking matter what time it was on the shot clock, they were putting it up. And that's what I think, as long as they do that, again, I don't care if they're still last in pace, as long as they just take the shots when they're there. And to your point, they just have more guys that can, it's funny because like, Elfrid Payton could put the ball on the floor. I mean, say what you want about him. He could put the ball on the floor. Reggie Bullock could shoot, but Reggie Bullock couldn't put the ball on the floor and Elfrid Payton couldn't shoot. And now you have in Fournier and Walker, both of those guys can do both of those things. That's a good transition. What is your ceiling for this team as an offense? Like, because, Knicks fans are like, they're going to be a 3 seed. I'm like, well, if you're a 3 seed, that means you're top 10 in both, or pretty close. Like, I don't know that I see top 10 offense as their ceiling. Maybe. Where are you at?
I don't think they're a top 10 offense. That would be.
That's really good.
That's really good. That would be a strain, because I do think they'll be a top 10 defense. I know there's been a lot of chatter about, adding Fournier and Walker to the mix and what that does to kind of just your ability to stop the ball at the top of the key. But I just feel like the backline defense is good enough, and they just played on such a they outplayed their defensive talent last year. And I just feel like that is what Tibbs teams do. And I'm just betting on that happening again. I think the 3-point attempt thing is real in that they'll take more. I don't think it's going to be a situation. Also, remember, the whole league is going to take more. The Warriors took like 907 threes in a game the other night.
I saw that. I was looking where the Knicks ranked, and they were like taking 44 a game. They're ranked 16.
Right. Every single year, 3-point attempts go up across the league. So there's kind of a natural bump. So they're going up compared to where they were last year, but how much will they go up relatively for compared to the rest of the league? Another thing they have to do is if we're talking top 10, they got to get to the free throw line more.
Which they did not do nearly enough last year. No,
I think they were 16th in free throw rate last year, which is like, that's got to come up. You've got to find ways to get to the lane and get it up. And that's not something I see changing all that much. Who on this team is all of a sudden going to become a free throw glutton?
The only guy that I see, and you brought him before, and I was going to ask about him next, is RJ. To me, RJ is the guy that can eventually get to, I don't know if it happens this year. I think he could be a 6-7 free throw attempt a game guy because he has the build. He goes in there friggin' how many times a game? He should be able to do that. Does he do it this year? I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. He's if I had to pick one, he's probably the guy, but like Kemba's not going to get to the line a ton.
I hope he doesn't. I don't want him to be banging around down there.
For sure. Fournier is like, he's fine getting to the line. He gets there, 3.5 times a game or something like that, but he's fine. He's going to get there way more than Bullock, who I think took 71 free throws in 2 years with the Wizards. I'm falling back on old habits with the Knicks. Yeah. But he's, it's not like he's a guy who's going to get there all the time. The bigs aren't going to get there a crazy amount. He's not, it's not where he's at. I don't see this team really, quickly stops before he gets to the rim. The floater is great, but the problem with the floater is that it doesn't get you free throws. And my big problem with floaters is that they're great as a secondary option for a guy who goes to the rim. And for such a young player, it's so nice that he's refined enough to have that shot. But ultimately, you want his first option to be able to get all the way to the rim, because then you get layups and you get possible fouls out of it.
I asked Tibbs about that last year, and he completely shot me down. He's like, no, we like that shot for him, which I'm sure they want to instill confidence, and I totally get it. But I'm like, he was I'm sure you're on Cleaning the Glass just, as much as I am. Like, he was in the 3rd percentile at shooting shots at the rim for guards. Like, that's not, you got to get a little bit higher than that.
Yeah, for sure. And he's a rookie, and sometimes rookies just struggle to get to the rim, and a guy with, his ability to handle and create momentum and pick and rolls going downhill, all that kind of stuff. Like, he might be able to get better at that, but I don't think he's a guy who's going to get to the line all the time. So like, ultimately, if they're not a team, if they're at best a middle of the pack team at drawing free throws, maybe middle of the pack taking threes, I think they're going to be able to have some good moments, but I don't know. I don't see this being more than like a middle of the pack sort of offense, but a good defense.
To me, if they hit 12th, we should be throwing parties and parades, because if they could get maybe not even 12th, maybe just like 12th, 13th, but somewhere in that top half of the league, range. And then again, I don't expect the defense to be whatever it was last year, 3rd or 4th in the league, but 6th, 7th, like, again, you want to be in that top 10 net rating somewhere. And so at least you could talk yourself into doing some stuff. The
other thing that has to come into the conversation is that the 2 point guards both have bad knees.
Yes.
So, it's not like you can't sit here and predict that Kemba and Rose are both going to play 65 plus games, right?
Well, that's why people are keep wanting me to say, the Knicks are going to be a 3 seed, or they're going to be a top 4 seed again. I'm like, if I knew how many games they were going to play, I'd be happy to do that. We don't know that.
Yeah. So that's tough too. But I would say they're probably somewhere in the 15 to 20 range in points per possession. That's my guess.
That's the smart money. We'll see if they can outkick their coverage here. You brought up RJ. RJ is fascinating to me. I feel like I defend him in terms of how he's, I guess, perceived around the league, or at least how it is perceived that he is perceived around the league. And then I have Knicks fans that also will tell me like that I'm killing the guy. Just like before you came here and started covering this team, can I just ask you, what was your perception of RJ Barrett as a prospect, as a player? What you thought his ceiling was, and has that changed at all?
My perception of him completely changed last year.
Okay.
I did not love him as a prospect when he first came into the league. I didn't love him as a number 3 overall pick. And then he had his rookie year. He didn't make free throws. What was his true shooting percentage as a rookie?
He had why do I want to say it was like 44 something, or was that his effective field goal percentage?
He had a 44% effective field goal percentage as a rookie,
and then it jumped up to 49 last year. Yeah.
And 48% true shooting percentage, which is like
not what you want
for a guy whose main thing is he's going to score. That's a disaster. And then he just improved so much. Like, I think sometimes there are certain guys, like, to me, the really hard part of scouting, and when I get like amazed with NBA scouts, so I feel like I watch enough basketball to where I can look at a guy and I can watch him in college and I can see him hit a lot of threes. You could be like, oh, that guy's going to be a really good 3-point shooter in the NBA. I can see him get a lot of rebounds.
I'm with you.
That guy's going to be a really good rebounder.
Yeah.
The amazing part of scouting to me is when scouts are able to watch a guy play and they say he's not good at that now at all. And there are no obvious signs by anyone's measure that he will get good at it. But here's why I believe that he can get good at it if he works on it with us our way.
Can I stop you there for a sec? Because you've been covering the league for a while and I want to pick your brain on this. If he works on it our way, do you think enough teams I'm asking you to make a very big generalization. Do you think enough teams pay attention to those two components? Because it's like the work ethic, but it's not just the work ethic. It's the work ethic with how we do things in our building, however that may be. And I guess it's different for different teams. I feel like, is that where teams go wrong? Because that's something I've spent time thinking about. And I just don't know the answer.
Yeah, it's probably dependent on which team you're talking about. I mean, there are some teams who, I think the best example off the top of my head is probably the Spurs drafting Kawhi Leonard, where they have Chip England there, who is, this extremely well-respected assistant coach who's great at working with shooters. And Kawhi couldn't really hit a shot at San Diego State. And Kawhi would hit shots in high school and his shot kind of became broken in college, right? Or at least broken by, NBA standards.
Yeah.
And the Spurs kind of adjusted with him and worked on him and he becomes this, all world player and an excellent shooter. And that's kind of the Spurs saying, oh no, we can teach this guy how to shoot. We know how to work with this. We figure this out. We watch the high school tape. We know what's going on here and we know how to fix it. And that's kind of the positive example of it. I mean, I think it probably takes a good amount of self-awareness to be able to pull that off.
Right. Yeah.
Because if you say, if this guy can do this thing our way, but your way is terrible, then it's not really going to work.
I mean, Kevin Knox is still on the roster. We'll see for how much longer, but is that an example? Like, that kid had talent. I didn't imagine that kid there was something there. I don't know what's there, but again, where do you proportion the blame? I don't know the answer.
Yeah, on Knox, I mean, I have no idea. I will say that my belief tends to trend always towards the player.
Okay.
And
probably smart.
And with RJ, I've been covering the Knicks for 2 weeks, but with RJ, he works with Drew Hanlon, who's a very respected trainer. And I know some of the stuff that they had worked on with his shooting form. And I've been told by about 12 different people that he's always in the gym. And you start hearing all of this stuff and you start to hear how much these people around him respect his work ethic. And then you start to see the results on the court. It's like, well, he's getting a lot better And everybody says that he works really hard, and he's not just getting better at these things that like he was great at, and then he just kind of had a slow start and then he started to get good at them. He's getting better at these things that he used to not be good at. It's not just the shooting. I mean, he's moving well around dribble handoffs. He's gotten really good at those like dump off bounce passes. Yeah. His feel is good. Like he's gotten really good at those dump off bounce passes to bigs. Like he's just reading better. You can tell he's watching film. You can tell he's absorbing the game faster. It's extremely obvious when you watch him play compared to what he was as a rookie. And you pair that with all the stuff you hear about how hard the guy works. And it's like, all right, like probably not a coincidence. Those two things are probably correlated.
Yeah. It's something I've paid attention to over the last year, as specifically as Julius Randle emerged as what Julius Randle has emerged as, is because the organization, when they drafted RJ, he was front and center, third pick in the draft, obviously the whole thing. And then last year, I'm not saying they like put him on the back burner, but it was like, Tom Thibodeau would say it, like Julius is our leader. It's Julius is the guy. And then we all rally around Julius and the whole thing. And I'm almost wondering how and this kind of gets into the PR angle of it. I almost wonder how RJ is going to be positioned this year, but to the extent that they have control over that. And I don't know that they do. I don't know. Are you interested in that at all? Or is that you don't care?
Just in terms of like hierarchies, you mean?
Yeah. Just like teams, they have messages, it's better than anyone. Like teams message what they want. I'm wondering what the Knicks put out, I guess almost is kind of like how they want us to see it,
I guess that's true. I mean, Tibbs is their ultimate spokesperson, right? Like Tibbs is the one who's up there every day. And Tibbs's ultimate line is everyone's interchangeable. Everyone there is interchangeable. That's his line, right? The point guards, they're Kemba and Rose, they're interchangeable. All these guys, Barrett and Quickly, they're interchangeable. The bench unit with Burks and Barrett and Rose, or Burks and Quickly and Rose, like they're interchangeable. It's fine. Everybody's interchangeable. So, I feel like with Tibbs specifically, he just kind of sucks that sort of angling completely out of the conversation. And he's really their sole spokesperson. So I don't know. I don't know how that part of it will develop, but I know Tibbs is just, he doesn't care about that.
Do you like covering Tibbs?
I like asking him nerdy basketball questions.
Yeah.
Like I asked him about RJ Barrett setting screens for Julius Randle in inverted pick and rolls.
I didn't hear that one. That's awesome.
And I thought he gave a really interesting answer about guards being uncomfortable guarding the back ends of pick and rolls and bigs being uncomfortable guarding the front ends of pick and rolls and how they can use that to their advantage. And little hint that will be in a story later this week. So
giddy up, something to look for. I'm excited about that. That's the one thing I always went back to. When he got hired, people would be like, "Oh, he's lost a step. He's not a good coach." Like when you hear him talk, it's clear that he's forgotten more about basketball than like any of us will ever know. A couple more, and then you've been great with your time because you're awesome. But I don't want to keep you for too long. I do want to ask you. You spent how many years covering the Wizards? It was
3
years covering the Wizards.
3 doing the Wizards and parts of 3 seasons doing the Thunder.
I felt bad. The Thunder were 30th in Zach Lowe's league pass rankings today. I want to pour one out for Oklahoma City.
It's the right decision, Zach.
It is the correct decision. But in regards to the Wizards, I don't know where I'm getting this from. I'm not getting it from any place specific. I just feel like I listen to a lot of podcasts. I read what old media people write and stuff. It feels like there's an unspoken, not understanding, but I guess expectation is the simplest word, that Beal's going to extend. Do you have the same impression? Extend or resign? So, no, because he could sign the. Sorry,
he can sign an extension.
Yes,
he can sign a 4-year extension
today,
this month.
Yes,
yeah, or or he can wait until the end of the year
and then
get a 5-year deal, which the total deal would be like 50 something million more.
Okay. So I don't know why, but I feel like nobody is thinking he's going to be maybe that's a better way to put it. Nobody thinks he's going to actually enter the market. Do you expect him to actually enter the market, or do you just expect it, whether it's now or next summer, for the money? He's just going to be a Wizard for,
I'm not totally sure. I don't think he knows yet.
Really? Oh, wow.
I will say that I should say, I'm not sure if he knows yet.
Okay.
I would be very surprised if he signed the 4-year extension. That I'll say. I do not think he's signing the 4-year extension. I would be shocked if he signed the 4-year extension. It just doesn't make fiscal sense. That's something that if he can sign like 5 years, $240 million versus 4 years, $180 in the extension. That's a $55 million player option.
It's not nothing.
He's taken that $55 million player option. I don't know what he's going to decide. I think he's been really conflicted because I think his heart is in DC. And I also said that
you've written that.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is what's cool about covering Beal is it doesn't really take anonymous sources, because you just ask him and he tells you in quotes that you can write what he's thinking. That's awesome. So it makes the reporting easier. So you can see stories that I've written, which aren't according to anonymous sources. This is what's happening. It's, hey, Bradley Beal told me what he's thinking, and here's what he told me. And with Beal, he cares a lot about power and authority within an organization. And he cares about being kind of a central figure within the organization. And he cares a lot about being a central figure within the history of the organization. Like I know he cares about more than just getting his number retired. I think he should know at least that if he left the Wizards today, his number will probably be retired one day.
Yeah.
But I think he cares about more than that. He's a big believer that not all titles are created equal, that fighting it out for 13 years. Like, he loves the Dirk Nowitzki title. He loves he loves the Dirk title.
That's fucking awesome.
He's really
inspired.
So cool.
I didn't know that.
He's really inspired by the Dirk title. I was in shoot around on opening day in Dallas in 2019. They were playing the Mavs, and during his entire media availability, it was the first day that the Mavs unveiled the Dirk silhouette on the court, and he was just staring at the Dirk silhouette. And he was after the scrum, he was talking about, like, that's what I want. That's what I want. So that kind of stuff, like, he doesn't just want the retired number. He wants the silhouette. He also wants to win. And, I think if the Wizards were winning 50 games every year, I don't think this would be a discussion.
Sure. Yeah, of course not.
I think the issue is that he wants to win. And so I don't know what he's going to decide. I don't know if he has officially decided. If you put a gun to my head, I mean, he's chosen to stay at every opportunity. He already extended once. So
yeah,
he hasn't asked out. He's chosen to stay at every opportunity. So if you put a gun to my head, maybe I just say that he stayed because that's been the right answer every time so far.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows? It probably depends on what happens this year too. If this team just totally flames out, then, who knows?
It's just the historical part of it. It's perfect transitions. My last question is I was going to ask you about the NBA's 75th anniversary team they're coming out with. Because I've been like doing research and whatnot, because I want to, trying to put out like a list, and like the title of greatest Washington basketball player, I was about to say Wizard, in history. I feel like it's Wes, but Elvin, because Elvin Hayes was only there for 7 years. He started his career elsewhere. He left and then finished his career in Houston. Is it considered unsold, or it is?
Yeah, it's unsold.
It's unsold. Okay. Because I don't know.
He's at the very least. So when I would write about unsold, I would refer to him as the most decorated player in Washington history.
Okay.
Because what he has that Elvin Hayes did not, that Gilbert Arenas does not, that John Wall does not, some of the other great players, Bobby Dandridge does not. Earl Monroe started his career there.
A couple of nice playoff battles with the Knicks.
Yes. What Unseld has, first of all, he has a regular season MVP.
Yeah.
And second of all, he has the only finals MVP in franchise history.
Yes, he does.
He played his entire career there. He was there for 13 years. I mean, to me, it's kind of a Jeter A-Rod argument. Where it's like,
it's interesting.
If you're talking Unseld versus, hey, it's not that they had that sort of relationship, but just to equate it to a New York analogy, it's kind of a Jeter A-Rod thing where it's like, yeah, I mean, maybe not me. I mean, I guess it's less extreme than Jeter A-Rod because like obviously A-Rod was the better player, but who in their right mind is going to look back on Jeter and A-Rod's legacies and ask who's the better Yankee and who's going to say A-Rod?
Yeah, it's a great
call. No one's going to say A-Rod. So even though it's like, you're like, who's the better player? And you're like, well, A-Rod's the better player, but no one enjoys saying that. So
this is interesting because Beal, then I think if he does really spend the rest of his career there, maybe he has an outside. I mean, he's not winning MVP, but
he has a chance to be the best player in franchise history. It is not a storied franchise. You know, the last time they won 50 games?
Wall never did it. I don't believe.
He never did.
Did it happen during the 70s? Yeah.
1979.
Okay. So the year after they won the title, or was that two?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The year after. Yeah. 1979. They haven't won. It's the longest streak in the NBA. They haven't won 50 games in 41 years. Yeah. So Beal could become, if he decides to stay there, and at some point, look, their immediate future is not great right now. But I think Tommy Shepard has done a pretty admirable job as GM. I
like what they did. I'm on record. I'm a Dinwiddie fan. I like Spencer Dinwiddie. He needles the Knicks to no end, but I think he's a good player.
Right. Beal's 28 years old. Who the heck knows what happens in 3 years? He's always the most optimistic person in the room about the Wizards. And maybe they become good in 2025 and he's 32 and he's still there and he's leading a really good team. I mean, that's his chances of playing for a really good team are significantly higher if he leaves. But I think sometimes we don't, I don't know. It's easier for me to look at players as people because you just get to know them when you're on the beat. But I think sometimes in the public eye, people forget that these guys are people and they're, as much as everybody wants to win, there are more important things to people, like relationships and that kind of stuff that can be more important than just getting a ring on your finger.
Well, Julius Randle, I mean, I'm sure he's not discounting the possibility of a ring in New York, but he talked a lot about, why he resigned here and sounds like the whole atmosphere had something to do with it.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I don't think, listen,
I mean, look,
happiness, you can't put a price on happiness.
I will state right now, I'll take a happy life over The Athletic winning like a group journalism award. Kidding me? I'm taking money over the group journalism award. I'm taking lifestyle. I'm taking any individual accolades. I'm no team player. Like, taking all of that. It's crazy. It's crazy. These guys are people. There are other things that are just as, if not more important, as competitive as they all are.
No, you nailed it. I was going to ask you if you had any. Yeah, do you have any? Before I let you go, do you have any 75 greatest players hot takes, or do you not really think about this? Oh man, much?
I honestly have not thought about it at all.
Okay, I don't know who spends time thinking about this stuff and who doesn't. I'm curious to see what the list looks like, though. So we'll wait with bated breath together.
I'll look at it. I'll probably have some sort of take after I see it.
So save your remember your take.
Throw Wes Unseld Sr. on there. Wes Unseld Sr. better be on there.
It's funny because, again, not that my opinion means anything, but like when I first approached it, I was like, I'm not sure if Wes should be on. And then by the time I think I had him roughly in like the low 50s, around 60 something. Like he has to be on. He just has to be on.
Much better than his counting numbers.
Yes, that sure seems like it.
Superior, like a Draymond Green of his day.
Except he won an MVP and Draymond did not win an MVP.
Yes, and a Finals MVP.
10 years apart, and that's the thing, the span of time that it shows his greatness. Okay, you've been awesome. Can you please I always say this, if you're listening to this podcast, and I feel bad because we ask for people's money with the Patreon. I have the newsletter that you subscribe for, but I never feel bad making this plea because if you are not subscribed to The Athletic, what are you doing? So tell folks where they could find you and your stuff.
Yeah. So you can check me out over at The Athletic New York now. Yeah. And you can find me on Twitter at Fred Katz. If you just, I guess, click on any story that I write, you can just sign up, off of a link over there. And I'm on the Athletic NBA show every Tuesday with Sam Amick and Anthony Slater, just talking around the league stuff. And that's it. Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. This was fun.
Well, hopefully we didn't scar you too badly and you want to come on again. No, this was great. Thanks for coming on. We will certainly talk again very soon.